Dry sump systems are extremely expensive. Or are they? Alright, so when I was deciding how I was going to make this video, I wasn't sure if I wanted to go right into the fabrication or if I was going to sort of talk about where I got all this stuff. So it's sort of a honey hole, and I don't think a lot of people are using it. And if I spill the beans, there's a good chance that everything is going to get bought up and it won't be as cheap anymore. So, do I share it? Yeah, I'm gonna share it. So in this episode, what we're gonna do is, yes, we're gonna do the fabrication. I'll show you guys how I'm starting to mock some of this stuff up, but I'm also gonna tell you a little bit about where and how I got this stuff and how cheap it is to put together a really nice dry sump. This dry sump setup is probably worth 8 to 9 grand retail if it was new stuff. And I'm gonna have about 1,200 bucks in it, and you're gonna see it's pretty nice stuff. So without further ado, let's look at some of the parts. So what's the secret? NASCAR. You got it. So you guys already saw this dry sump pump, and I have it taped up right now. This is a Frank Weiss NASCAR 5-stage pump. This pump retails for $4,800. This particular one has 507 miles on it. And I've disassembled it, checked it, re-put it back together, and it is pretty much good to go. All of this NASCAR stuff is bought up through race houses. So basically you have a race team that's going under or something like that. They sell off all their stuff to these houses and it goes super cheap. A lot of this stuff is on eBay and on eBay stores. But if you don't know where it is or what you're looking for, it's easy to miss. But there's tons of it. This dry sump pump, about 350 bucks I bought it for. That's a deal. I can't get another cheap Chinese pump for that much. And this is super nice. One thing to know, if you're gonna go this route and you wanna go with dry sump, I have this taped up right now, but let me show you. Make sure when you get your ports that comes with your AN fitting adapters. If it doesn't, it will come with a port ring or port fitting. Come on, get it off. Okay, so this is the AN adapter. If it doesn't have that, it's going to have some sort of proprietary port fitting like that. That's fine if you like spending a lot of money on port fittings. Some of those fittings are almost like 70 bucks a piece. Fortunately, this one came with the adapters to AN right off the bat. So that is the pump that we are going to use, 350 bucks. Next up in the NASCAR Dry Sump purchase frenzy, we got the remote oil system. This particular one here, this was made by CV Products. I think it's like Aerodyne now, or maybe Xylodyne, whatever it is. One of those companies. And this is perfect for not only NASCAR guys, but turbo guys. It's got an in, it's got 2 outs. It's got 1 out here, and it's got a little AN out. This is typically used for oil pressure. You don't have to use this for oil pressure. If you look at that, that's about the perfect size for a turbo oil feed. And that's what I'm going to be using it for. Instead, I'm going to put a pressure and temperature in this guy, and I'll just be reading on that side of the filter. Not a big deal. Oh, this guy retails for like 300 bucks, but I got it with not 1, not 2, but 3 BMRS hoses. Those hoses alone cost 400 bucks as they sit there. This whole setup was 110 bucks. Not bad. What about the tank, right? So the first thing you think of when you think of a dry sump system after the pump, the tank. This is a Roush Yates dry sump tank. Came out of a cup car. It is pretty slick. I paid $125 for this tank off of eBay, off a NASCAR race house. It is beautiful inside, and I'll show you guys some video of it, the insides later on. But it came with a thermocouple, which is very specialized because it is stupid long. Okay, so that thermocouple is probably 80 bucks by itself. It came with the mounting straps, and it came with a 120 volt belly heater. That belly heater is worth probably 150 bucks by itself. Not only that, but the inside of this tank is legit. The centrifugal separation in here goes through like a strainer. It's got like a gas tube up through it for separating all the vapor, so all the oil settles out and you don't have any air in it. It's super nice. I couldn't even get the material to build this tank for the money that I paid for it. It actually looks a lot worse than when I got it because I was sliding around on the table to weld these extensions on and I scratched it all up. But that's not going to matter because it's going to get powder coated. Not powder coated, but Cerakoted. So it's fine. The next big thing that you get wrapped up into with dry sump systems are hoses. And fittings are stupid expensive. And hose is stupid expensive. Some of this big hose here, this stuff can be like $30 a foot. This stuff here that I have, I also got used. This is off of eBay. These are BMRS AN hoses. And they're super nice. These are the ultralight racing hoses. A hose like this to buy retail is probably 200 bucks for this little length that you see here. I mean, these fittings are like 60 bucks a piece. And I'm not including the cost to buy the dies to crimp these. You need like a die and a machine to crimp them. This hose is like $30 a foot because it's like ultralight racing shit. It's super nice. Again, I got this stuff. These were $15 a piece. And they are very, very nice condition. The only imperfections I found were light wear on the anodized and the edges. Super nice. Basically what I wanted to show here is if you get a little creative and you think through stuff, when you look at all these parts, even though they're custom, you can make them work for projects like this. And these hoses, you look at this and you say, hey, I don't know if that's gonna work for what I need, the shape I need. Save it, use it for something else. What I did was I bought a ton of these guys. These are just weld-on AN fittings, okay? And what I'll be doing is rather than running hose all over the truck, I'm going to be running solid aluminum tubing, which I got for $40 for an entire 20-foot stick in a couple different sizes. So I got 1.5 inch to run -16, and I got 1.25 inch here to run -12. So that's way cheaper than hose. It's going to be very solid. You're not going to abrade it, and it's going to be good to go. So if you can weld aluminum, that's how you can make a lot of these hoses work. And if you have dies, like I do already, for a tubing bender, you can make pretty much the piping run right up to the hose that you bought for 15 bucks, and you can have a very solid piping system with very nice AN hoses, not cheap Chinese stuff, and have a very legit setup. So enough talking. I sort of told you guys how this works and what I'm doing and where I got all this stuff and sort of how I got the cost down on this. I'm going to be about 1,200 bucks in for everything. Okay. That's all the pieces, all the little AN fittings, tube nuts. That's all this hard line, elbows, oil thermostat. I got oil coolers coming, 2 oil coolers coming. All that stuff, 1,200 bucks. In the previous episode, if you didn't already see it, I'll link to it above in the top right corner. We already made a dry sump oil pan from scratch, and it's not that hard. Especially if you could do, some TIG fabrication. You can make a dry sump oil pan down there, and it's not that bad to do. So, that being said, let's get to fabbing. One quick thing before we get to the dry sump fabrication and what we're doing there. I did fab up this guy. This is our dual 3-inch pipes that we made in the last episode. And what I did is I merged them together into a 5-inch pipe. So this is going from 2 3-inch guys to a 5-inch. It's actually a 3 to 5-inch cone, and it's mitered in there nice and solid. So this is gonna come up and around, and you can see it just popping out the bottom there. So that's going to come out around the piping and then come out the side of the truck here. So I had a whole bunch of footage for it, but I didn't include it in this video because it doesn't really fit with the whole theme of dry sump. So we'll leave it be for now. So back to the fabrication. Okay, so let's get in a little bit more detail about what we're gonna do here. So this is the pump, or yeah, the sump that we got, and it is super nice. It has a shelf here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to make an outrigger with a neoprene pad, and this dry sump is going to sit on that pad up against this. That's what's gonna hold it actually up and down. Then there is a bracket here. You can see that it's not drilled at all. It's made to slide over. These sumps, if you look at them, they're actually set up with Wiggins fittings and all that stuff for quick removal. Say you have a problem at the track, you want to get back out, you can rip this thing in and out pretty fast. So I'm guessing that's what they were using this shelf for. If not, that's what we're going to use it for. They might have just been trying to clear some frame rails. The way that the outlet is oriented, this is a -16 outlet. We don't have any issues, and this is going to have to be turned towards the frame, and then we're gonna make a right angle out of it, and we'll be doing it that way. So I'm got this up here because what I need to do is there's still some residual oil in this, and we have to weld on it. It comes with Wiggins fittings, which are great. They're awesome. I'd love to afford to use them, but if you've ever looked at the fittings are cheap, the clamps are expensive. You know, a little clamp like this might be 50 bucks. And if I were to do this whole oil system with $50 clamps everywhere, I'm gonna run out of money super fast. So gonna take these and weld AN fittings on them. But what we're actually gonna do with these two is we're going to take a 90-degree bend out, and we're gonna run tubing down to about here somewhere, and then we'll put ANs on here. Because what we're going to do is we're actually going to go from 2 -12s. This is the return oil, where the oil returns to the sump at the top. We're gonna go from 2 -12s to 1 -16. So we're gonna have a -16 feed to the sump that runs underneath the truck. And then we're gonna have a -16 return pipe that goes from -16 to -12. And the return pipe will have -12s on it as well. So it'll be a little bit more clear when I show you sort of how everything's laid out. But that's just kind of the way I did it, because honestly, I'm trying to do this on the cheap. I think I have $1,100 total into the dry sump system, including the Frank Weiss 5-stage pump. So we have less in this really legit setup than you know, most people go through, you know, just in their pump that have more money in it. So I'm gonna go ahead, take this apart, clean it, probably stick it in the bathtub, really scrub it down, wash it, get it cleaned up, and then we'll start getting these bends welded on here the way we want. Okay, so we got those bent and welded up. We got some AN12s welded on the end there. They're gonna go on that, the return section. So what I need to do now is I need to get these sort of laid out. They're a little hot. Need to get these laid out and plasma cut a brace in here that's gonna brace these two and then tie to the sump. And then we'll sort of get those tacked together, and then we'll fit everything up to the sump. So it welds so nice when it's new aluminum. You know, the tube's new, the fitting's new. I'm hoping that I can get that sump clean enough that, you know, the oil coming out of the pores isn't going to be a pain in the butt. So I'm sure this won't be as easy as what that just was once I start welding the actual sump. Okay, so there we go. We got this all welded up. Put the scavenge extensions on, and that is going to tuck in down by the cab. What I'm gonna do next is I'm going to get the tubing bender mounted back up, and I'm gonna bend some 45 and start making the shelf that this thing's gonna sit on. So let's get started. Okay, so we got this welded up. It's gonna mount on the frame like that. Got some under reinforcement down there. So we're gonna be good. The tank is gonna sit on top of this. So I'm gonna go ahead, go over here to the chassis, and I'm gonna drill some holes right in this region, about so. And then we're gonna tap those, and that's where the tank will sit. Okay, so I got that mounted up, drilled and tapped, and you can see how it sits on there. So what I'm gonna do is the hoses are actually gonna pass through this area and then tuck down into that intersection. So they're gonna come out and angle this way, and then this 16 here is gonna get a 90 and also kick out that way. Then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make the tubes that run forward to the front of the truck. So I wanted to get this as far to the right as I could, and I'm pretty happy with how it looks, and I'm happy with how the hoses are fitting and tucking underneath. So should work pretty good. Next up, I need to get this strapped in. So this guy's just sitting up on top here, sitting on the pedestal, but it's not actually hooked to anything. So we need to make a band to go around this, and then we're gonna make another mount here with another piece of tube that hooks to that, and that's gonna stabilize it forward and back and, you know, keep it from falling off the stand. The stand holds the weight, the upper bracket just gonna hold it in place. So let's get started. Okay, so I put about a 5-degree forward bend on it, and then I put a full 90 bend on it, and then just sliced it before it actually met the 90. So we can get it in there pretty good. I need to basically push this in and tack it. And then once that is tacked, we're just gonna leave it there. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get another tube and miter it between here and make like a little gusset. And then that should be pretty solid. So that should work. Up here, I tapped that mount for the bolts. They're 5/16 bolts, and the frame now will be bolted on the side and on the top. So I think this should be plenty solid to hold the sump through, you know, normal driving, especially once I put that cross gusset in there. So I'm gonna call it a night now, but overall, I'm liking the way this is looking. All right, so there you go. I went ahead and just welded in that little brace there, and I'm pretty happy. That should be pretty well supported. So I'm probably gonna leave this episode off here. I think what we're gonna do on the next episode, we're gonna work on all the piping going forward that we're gonna pass through this area here. So I'm gonna show you sort of the manifolds that I'm gonna build and how I'm gonna lay that stuff out. And it should give you a little bit of insight into how to make these lines work. You know, by using these used NASCAR lines, they're much higher quality. But you know, sometimes you can't find the exact lengths or angles that you want. So I'm gonna use the manifolds and the piping to make up that difference and then make these work. So that's gonna be it for now. Until next time, hope you guys like this stuff, and You know, appreciate all the subscribers. We're getting close to 1,000 subscribers. So if you guys have any buddies that you can forward the videos to, push us over that edge. It's much appreciated. But until next time, have a good one.